Hello?
Hey, is this Lorenz?
Yeah, yeah.
The investigation had been going on for months.
We knew the neighbors were talking. We knew there was speculation. We didn't know what the story was.
The bodies that were found in the backyard, do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I buried my parents on the property.
What did you do to your parents?
What did we just hit? What just happened?
Drive down Crestwood Court in Albany and you might just miss it. A small, unassuming home tucked behind thick shrubs and overgrown hedges. To most, it's just another house on a quiet street, but to those who live here, it's a place shrouded in mystery. Neighbors say Franz and Teresia Kraus enjoyed a quiet life here until one day they were simply gone. No moving trucks, no goodbyes, just gone.
There was no like, oh, take care, or hey, could you help with the garden or anything like that. They were just gone.
For years, the couple's son, Lawrence, came and went, tending to the yard, collecting the mail. It looked like another home being kept up.
I asked him to his face, and he said, oh, they're in Germany. I said, okay.
Taking care of their
yeah.
They were, so quiet and kept to themselves. We respected that, and then, your lives go on.
But investigators now say those walls were hiding an unimaginable secret. For years, no one had seen or heard from Franz and Teresia, but their Social Security benefits were still being spent, accounts still active. At one point, a distant relative asked police to check on the couple.
We had also gotten a call back in February of 2020 to check on their welfare. At that time, we had gotten information from a neighbor that they had moved away, moved out of the country. We had tried to contact the person that had called us, which was a distant relative that did not live in the area, and we're not able to contact that person, and we had no reason at that moment to find anything more suspicious at that time.
That is until this year. On May 21st, more than 5 years after that first welfare check, the Social Security Administration contacted Albany police to check on Franz and Teresia.
In May, I had Social Security show up to our house to ask questions about the neighbors. And he was quite surprised to hear that we hadn't seen them in around, I think I said 8 or 9 because I wasn't really sure of the timeline of it. And that's when I told him, I was like, between me and you, I was like, I think he did something to them, and I'm pretty sure they're in the backyard.
It was apparent that Mr. and Mrs. Kraus were no longer at that house. That opened up a long investigation between the Albany Police Department, the Albany County District Attorney's Office, the Social Security Administration, and also a partnership with the New York State Police and several other federal agencies to start trying to figure out what was happening from both a financial background and where the Krauses were.
Then on September 23rd, after months of investigating, search warrants were executed at 6 Crestwood Court. At first, authorities said it was suspected financial crimes. Within hours, local, state, and federal agencies were at the home. Officers were seen scouring the property with cadaver dogs, investigators taking boxes upon boxes of evidence out of the house. Even an Albany Police Mobile Command Center was set up. It was clear there was more to this investigation than authorities were letting on. The next day, investigators were still at the home. This time, they brought an excavator. As investigators zeroed in on the back.
I was just leaving for work, and the detectives came into the backyard just to tell us to not let any press in the backyard.
Authorities have been very tight-lipped about what they're doing at this home on Crestwood Court here in Albany. You can see behind me that a command center has been set up right in front of the home. The heavy police presence here started yesterday with a search warrant. Officials say it's tied to suspected financial crimes, but officials have indicated to me that it could be something much bigger. Now, I've been here most of the day. I saw an excavator digging up the backyard. I also obtained video showing investigators appearing to have found something of great importance in the dirt. They were seen taking photos of what they unearthed, but they're not saying what it is. Just moments after this report aired, the coroner arrived on scene, confirming what many had feared. Authorities officially announced what they uncovered the next day.
Ultimately, yesterday, on the 24th, We did uncover human remains of 2 people in the backyard of 6 Crestwood Court.
The 2 bodies are believed to be Franz and Teresia Kraus. It was now the afternoon of September 25th, just minutes after Albany Police Chief Brendan Cox made those statements, a twist no one saw coming. CBS6 received an email. What unfolded next, even the police didn't see coming.
We get literally hundreds of emails every day in our inbox. They're tips from viewers on story pitches, things like that, press releases. My assistant news director came to me and showed me this email that we had received in our inbox from someone who claimed to be the son of the 2 parents who were missing at the time. We knew there were 2 bodies pulled out from the backyard, and now we had this 2-page letter from someone claiming to be the son with a selfie. It jumps from Arnold Schwarzenegger to some federal politics and some statements and how he would like to see the government restructured. It didn't make a lot of sense. The bottom of one of the letters had his phone number that he had put there. I looked around the newsroom. There weren't any reporters there, so I went into our conference room right next to my office, and I called him.
Hello?
Hey, is this Lorenz?
Yeah.
This is Stone Grissom. I'm the news director at WRGB CBS6 here in Albany. You sent us an email?
Yeah.
Pretty much within 40 seconds, asked him if he had a comment about the bodies being pulled out of the backyard.
Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I buried my parents on their property.
You're saying you buried your parents in the backyard of their property?
Right.
That was the first time that story broke. We broke it, he broke it to me. I needed to get more of that story.
Let me just ask you directly, did you kill your parents?
Yeah, I can't comment. Fifth Amendment, I have to assert that.
He didn't say no. He said he couldn't tell me yet, and he kept directing me back to his 2-page statement. And I kept saying to him, that doesn't tell me the answer that I'm asking you. You have a lot to say in this, but I want to know, and the public wants to know, did you kill your parents?
I'll disclose everything if that document is released to the public and the public can actually read it. And I'll talk whoever wants to, everything in politics and prosecutions is negotiation. And if they want the truth, my price is right in that document.
And so I said to him, then let's negotiate. I'll negotiate with you right now.
If we were to put this document on our website, would you go on camera and speak to us?
Sure. Can I see proof of your putting it up?
I will give you my word that by the time you're here, it will be on our website.
Okay.
We hang up the phone. I don't even have time to process it. My assistant news director, Stephen, is there, listening to the whole thing. And we both looked at each other and said, what just happened? Like, what did we just agree to? We just invited potentially a killer to our station. And he's gonna be here. And we haven't made a single decision as to how to prepare for that. 25, 30 minutes, he's gonna be here. And the clock is ticking. I ran downstairs. Now, you have to understand our building is big, it's huge. My boss is down an entire flight of stairs and then down a hallway. I have to get down there. He's in a meeting. I go down there, interrupt his meeting, and I literally went up to him and said, I don't have time to discuss this. We don't have time to process this. We don't have time to call whoever we need to call and get the permissions we need to get. This is happening. I realized at that point, I don't even have people to do this yet. So I went to the area where a lot of my photojournalists are, and they're editing at the time. And I stood in the middle of it and said, look, I'm about to tell you a situation where I cannot guarantee, I'm gonna do everything I can to make this safe, but I can't guarantee the ultimate safety of this. I'm not gonna tell anyone to do this. I'm gonna ask for volunteers. And every every one of them, like, raised their hands and said, oh, I'm in. Everyone knew this was a moment. It wasn't a story. This was something big happening. We don't know who's showing up. We don't know if it's Charles Manson or Pee Wee Herman or somewhere in between. That's when it hit me that we need security. I didn't even know who to call, really, which department to really call, other than it was probably Albany Police. Really, I just wanted the highest ranking person I could get, and it was the chief. I did request that we have somebody in the perimeter, somebody around the building somewhere, for our safety's sake, just in case. By the way, Greg Floyd, who did the interview, doesn't know anything yet. He still doesn't know anything. He's the last person I talked to. So I have to go down another hallway, down is another staircase, get to Greg, and I have no idea if he's here or not.
I walked into his office and I said, Greg, Lorenz Kraus is coming to the station. I then explained to Greg what I knew, which wasn't much, but it was bombshell material already.
Yeah, I definitely knew who he was, what he might have done, and about the only thing I could think of is, what do I want to get out of this man? What do we want to hear from this man? And what we wanted to hear from this man was what happened. What was the truth? What happened in that house 8 years ago? That's what we had to find out. I knew he wanted to talk about his statement, and I also knew I was not going to talk about his statement. I'm not giving this person a forum other than our website where people can read it, but I'm not going to sit there and talk to him about archaic German law and Nazi Germany and running the government with a board of trustees. I had no interest in talking about that. There was no preparation. I didn't go in with a list of questions, as reporters often do, as I often do.
We were ready before he got here, which was the goal.
But it turns out he did get here earlier. He just missed the driveway.
You have to know our building. Our building takes up a block. It's huge, and there are gigantic letters out there. It's really hard to miss. If you're gonna drive by it, it's really hard to miss. But apparently he did. So I went through both doors, went outside alone, and walked all the way down to our street, which again, it's a long path. And as I look back at it now, many things could have gone wrong with me choosing to do that. And I waited for him to come down the street.
So there's Lorenz Kraus. He's sitting in his car. I'm standing outside, holding the door open. Greg's holding the inside door, just in case I need to dive back in.
Is that his car right there? Yeah, it's by himself?
Yeah, it looks like that way.
Kraus wouldn't get out of the car. He was just sitting there. It was very, very tense. None of us knew what to expect, what was happening. He was fiddling around with something in his passenger seat. All we could do is sit there and wait for it. And finally, after what seemed like minutes, he got out of his car and he came to the front door.
This was unlike anything that I had ever done or I had ever even seen done, really.
Just have to, get you from here. Come on in.
He gets out of his car, finally, and walks over, very unassuming, very polite, comes to the front door. He's wearing shorts and a T-shirt. Clearly, he was not planning for this, I don't think, when he started the day, because he wasn't dressed for going on camera. And that's when I confronted him. He was very polite. He was, I told him who I was, that we had spoken on the phone, and I asked him if he was armed. And he almost laughed at it and said he wasn't. And I said, and then this was a decision I didn't even make until that moment. I thought, well, I'm gonna pat you down, of course. Like, everyone's watching me. I gotta let them know that I'm making it as safe as I possibly can.
Everything about it was odd. The smile on his face, his way of speaking. Of course, after reading his statement, you realize that something's not right here. Everything about him was off. I actually asked him at one point, you know, do you take anything? You know, are you dealing with any mental challenges, any mental disabilities? And he said, no, no, no. But obviously something's going on. A lot of it was a blur, you know, as I look back. But I remember seeing the faces. I'm looking straight ahead, and my general manager is standing there. And I peer over to the right, and there's, you know, 2 camera operators, and my news director, Stone, is there. I couldn't see behind me. But I'm feeling like, wow, these guys are all counting on me, you know? And then I thought, a lot of people are kind of counting on me right now. And so let's get it done.
That's when he said, did you put my 2-page statement on the web? He's sitting down, I'm leaning over him, and I'm showing him my phone. I'm saying, this is our website, you see it right here.
Great. And then there's two,
There's 2 pages, yeah. Yeah. Whoops.
just show me the 2 pages. No rush.
He was satisfied. Again, I thanked him. I said, I've answered your questions. I mean, I've held up my end of the bargain. And he was agreeable at that point. And that's when the interview began.
All right, Lawrence, well, thanks for sitting down with us. We really appreciate it. We'll get to the statement.
At the beginning, his rote answers were, I'll take the Fifth Amendment or it's in my statement.
So, did you kill your parents?
I'll leave that for the statement that I put on your website.
And I, told him a couple times, I don't care about your statement. We're not here to talk about your statement. We're here to talk about what happened in that house that day 8 years ago.
The statement doesn't mention that.
I know.
Not mention that.
Right.
I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
What did you do to your parents?
And Greg was just brilliant in bringing him back to really what the public was, why we had him here.
What happened to your parents?
My mother wrote me a note, which the police must have now, describing her walking across Whitehall Road. I mean, not Whitehall, Wolf Road, and she fell down on her face. A problem, because when elderly start to fall down, the time comes that they start to, beginning of the end. And my father also had cataract surgery, and he lost his vision to double vision, so he couldn't be he couldn't drive.
I thought about them, and while I'm not sure I was bringing them justice, I just felt I had to do them right. I had to, it was especially after he called them children of World War II.
My mother was born in '42. She was a toddler. She told me she would follow funerals behind the horse and wagon.
I started thinking about them, what they've been through in their lives, what they were through as children with war raging around them. And I just felt a responsibility to them to get the truth out.
It's important for people to know what happened to your parents.
Right.
They were your parents. You loved them. They were deteriorating. What did you do?
And I did my duty to my parents.
When it actually happened, when your parents died, did they know it was happening to them?
Oh, yeah.
And they knew it was at your hand?
Well, yes, no one else's.
And then that's where the words started rolling out of his mouth more with me trying to, help those words come out.
Were there drugs involved?
No.
Was there a suffocation? You suffocated them. You suffocated your parents.
Yeah.
I do remember being, and I almost have a little tingle thinking about it right now, but I do remember being hit by, having a physical reaction to, oh my God, this man has just told me that he did kill his parents. I didn't want to let my emotions change the course of the interview. I wanted to make sure that we stayed on track. So I just kept the same style going that I was using, the give and take, the push, pull back.
Did they struggle as you did it?
I would say the last minute, no. But they're, I think my father died very quickly, surprisingly quickly. That shocked me. And then, the part with my mother, went quickly too.
And he kept calling it a mercy killing. Yet the manner didn't fit that. Strangulation. That takes minutes. That's not instantaneous. That's not a mercy killing. But he's so free about it, and he seemed so at peace with it, and so eager to tell us.
Do you think people are going to accept this rationale?
They probably won't.
And feel for you?
What they need to feel is for their own parents. They're going to face the same problems, and they're going to have to find solutions ahead of time, or else they're going to end up like me.
But again, just to be clear, you took both your parents' lives.
Yes.
And you realize that you're probably going to face the criminal consequences.
Oh, of course.
You're probably going to be arrested.
I felt like it was clear that he was well aware that he would be arrested. Whether he knew he was going to be arrested that quickly, within seconds of leaving our front door, or if he thought he had an hour or two. But he knew it wasn't going to end well.
You know, again, I go back to those parents. I went to the vigil for the parents, not as a reporter, just as an individual, if you will. Talked to a lot of the neighbors, you know, not on camera, and got more of a feel for what Franz and Terry were like. And to me, that's what matters to me, are those parents and what happened to them. We know bits and pieces about the man who says he killed his parents and buried them in their backyard in that quiet Albany neighborhood. We know that Lorenz Kraus was highly educated. He received his master's degree here at RPI. Kraus attended a public high school, Albany High. He graduated with a degree in political science from what was then Siena College and received his master's from RPI. One person at the vigil for his parents says her son and Lorenz Kraus grew up as friends, and she asked for a prayer for him.
And so I want to say a prayer for Lorenz, for everything that he's going through now, that he has gone through, for God to bless him and comfort him and give him peace.
His writings were often anti-Semitic and contained words of praise for Adolf Hitler. He talked of inventing a new monetary system, a private cash device managed by his company, Penda Technology. He calls it a cash solution to the danger of central bank digital currencies. As for his personal life, he told us that he agreed to a divorce with his wife last year. He says they have not begun a formal process. He says she is not in the country presently, at least to his knowledge. He says, quote, she is highly accomplished and well educated on 3 continents. She worked on a very impressive project in the last few years in her home country on behalf of a major university. I don't want to embarrass her by giving her name. I will let her come forth on her own, end quote. But what about the victims in this case, Kraus's parents? Who were they? Tom Eschen takes us back to that Crestwood Court neighborhood to take a look at Franz and Terry Kraus, who their son described as children of World War II.
They lived a life of tragedy, but they also lived a life where they lived and experienced their freedom.
As that interview went viral across the world, the human element started to settle in here, the reality of it, at the Crestwood Court home of Franz and Teresa Kraus, and more importantly so for their neighbors, grappling with the loss of Franz and Teresa, and the shock, the sadness, and the pain for some of people that they might have waved to, smiled at, or said hello to on the streets, walking their dog on an afternoon. That loss felt so much so that they honored the two with a vigil just a few days later.
We gather in your presence with hearts weighed down by grief as we remember Franz and Terry.
About every day they went for a walk.
Yeah, they went for a walk, and you know, they were around, and we would just say hi.
Franz and Terry Kraus's neighbors painting a picture of a couple who would walk around Crestwood Court 3 times a day. Neighbors describing them affectionately as power walks, hand in hand, the Krauses waving to their neighbors along the way.
We had nicknamed him in the neighborhood Captain Tennille because he was always in a dress shirt and a vest with these hats. And she had these outrageously beautiful long skirts or dresses with her straw hat. So they lived a life of tragedy, but they also lived a life where they lived and experienced their freedom.
Neighbors say Terry and Franz, coming from war-torn Nazi Germany, finding freedom on Crestwood Court, while also bringing their own form of entertainment.
He was hysterical in that when she would go to church or to the grocery store, he would stand outside like this, waiting and waiting. Typically, I was having coffee at my friend's house right across the street because it was a Sunday. He would go in and get a chair, portable turntable, a record, check up and down the street, and break into the most outrageous jig dancing in the carport. He was blasting Polish music. That man was quite the dancer. I mean, he could do the cross leg to the ground, back up again, spin around. He was having the time of his life. And then he would check his watch, hurry around, pack everything up, put it back in the house, and go out and do yard work. So when she came home, he's waiting. And my friend Judy and I would just hysterically laugh, but it was the most beautiful thing to see that he just let go with abandon.
And it's those neighbors who now mourn the loss of that presence, dozens showing up at the candlelit vigil with those memories of Terry and Franz in their heart and an important lesson on their mind.
And I think if people just could open up, spend more time with each other, might be able to make a little bit of difference in the world so that something like this never happens again.
May the lives of Franz and Terry inspire us to live not for anger, but for love. Not for revenge, but for reconciliation. Not for despair, but for hope in your eternal promise.
Lorenz Kraus confessed to us in our CBS6 lobby, but incredibly, he was not done talking. The very next day, he gave us an exclusive interview behind bars here at the Albany County Jail, where he talked more about his parents and his so-called statement to the American people. In this interview, we gave Lorenz Kraus a little leeway to discuss his political leanings, which revolve around ancient German law, Nazi teachings, and a new government run by the people to ensure, he says, the happiness of the people. He has declared that New York State and the federal government should each be run by a board of trustees, and he has declared himself the initial trustee and thus immune from prosecution.
One of my goals was to create a board of trustees for New York State, and to create that initial trustee, someone needs to know what to do. So I'm making the claim that I'm the initial trustee of the New York State Board of Trustees, and they would have prosecutorial immunity.
In his orange jumpsuit inside jail walls, Kraus opened up more about his upbringing and his relationship with his parents. He matter-of-factly said it was a harsh relationship and not a loving one.
Was it a loving relationship you had with your parents?
Not in a loving, I wouldn't characterize it as loving the way you might say it in America. It was harsh.
It was harsh.
Oh, yeah.
We wanted to hear more about the relationship that ended when, according to Kraus, he killed his father with his bare hand and his mother with a rope. But a member of the public defender's office who tried to shut down our interview after the first question finally succeeded in having Kraus taken away, taken back to his cell. Interview over.
Right next. Okay.
So what do these two confessions mean? How could they affect the case against Kraus moving forward? CBS 6's Brianna Sapardi takes a look at those questions.
It's the on-camera confession that shocked the Capital Region and made national headlines, and it could become one of the key pieces of evidence in the case against Lorenz Kraus. But how might that exclusive interview with CBS6 shape what happens in the courtroom?
What did you use to suffocate them?
For my father, my hand. For my mother, a rope.
Riveting to watch, but is it admissible at trial? And how does one argue innocence with such a detailed confession? We're taking a closer look at the legal ramifications of that bombshell confession with attorney George LaMarche. How often do we see a case where the confession hinges on the media? One that the reporter got out, not law enforcement.
Rare. Very rare that you see this kind of thing. And it adds sort of an interesting twist or an interesting dynamic to the case that you don't usually see. To me, it solidifies probably a conviction for the defendant. What makes this unique is that it's not in police custody. It appears to be completely voluntary.
You have no mental disabilities that are affecting what you're saying here today?
Correct.
You're confident in what you said and clear of mind as you say all this?
Yeah.
What do you think the defense strategy will be here?
I mean, I think the defense certainly has to make the argument that this was an involuntary statement. If they're going to argue custody, they're going to have to argue that the police were involved to some extent. And I think that there is some information to suggest that the police may have been somewhat involved. But if the police didn't control the interview, give Greg instructions on what types of questions to ask or how to ask them, it's very unlikely that that kind of an argument from the defense is going to be successful. So then you look to corroboration.
Corroboration, indeed. does that physical evidence line up with what Kraus confessed to on camera?
Even if the defendant makes an admission that he did this and that he did it a certain way, once the bodies are analyzed, is there any evidence to suggest that the victims were not strangled or asphyxiated?
Which parent did you suffocate first?
My father, and after he died, my mother put her head on his chest, and she was there for a few hours, and then I finished her.
If there's no evidence, maybe you have a stronger argument that this is just a person who is mentally unstable, who is making a false statement, and look at the physical evidence in the case to suggest that they died of a natural cause or they died of something else, which is now inconsistent with what he said. That could be a defense.
And unlike the confession, the medical examiner's report hasn't been made public, so corroboration is still uncertain. But what is certain is the public's attention to this case. This on-camera confession, this has been viewed, millions of times from people, not just here in the capital region, but across the nation. If this case goes to trial, how would that influence the case in picking, jurors, not to mention, where they have the trial?
That is an argument that the defense may make, that they want to change the venue because they're concerned about the prejudicial impact that this statement that was made and has been played out over in the media how it could impact those jurors. But it's not likely that it's going to be changed, that the venue will be changed. More than anything, I would think they bring in extra jurors and they give the attorneys more time to question the jurors about any preconceived notions that they have or whether they have any prejudicial thoughts about the defendant, and they'll excuse those jurors.
And we can't ignore the obvious. Him even talking about mercy killing. He wanted to end the suffering of his parents.
I did the right thing for them based on the situation. I did my duty to them as a son.
Does that just scream delusional to you?
Yeah, it's his thinking is not, it doesn't sound like sane thinking. It doesn't sound like normal thinking. It's not normal thinking. He may believe in his own subjective brain that he's doing something to help his parents, but clearly, objectively speaking, he is not. So certainly that thinking does suggest that he has some sort of underlying mental health issue or mental incapacity issue that could weigh in terms of a discussion about how the case should resolve regarding a plea bargain.
At the end of the day, motive doesn't change the law. Even if Lorenz Kraus believed he was helping his parents, New York sees it as homicide. Up next, the growing push to legalize medical aid in dying in this state and why those safeguards are designed to prevent exactly what happened here.
Did you have any concern that whatever you did was wrong?
I would never have done such a thing if I ever did it knowing it's wrong.
Lorenz Kraus said he struggled watching his parents, and what many would call use the sick, twisted method in remedying that. Well, what he says he struggled with pales in comparison to someone watching a loved one grow terminally ill. And that's why we're here at the Capitol, because there's legislation pending right now that is controversial in nature, but some say could help someone die with dignity.
Lorenz Kraus claims he killed his parents out of mercy.
Because when elderly start to fall down, the time comes that they started, beginning of the end. And my father also had cataract surgery.
Your parents asked you to kill them or to take their lives in a merciful fashion?
I think they want me to take responsibility for things.
They asked you to take their lives, to do what they couldn't do?
Implicitly, but not explicitly.
Did one parent, did your mom or your dad, more so than the other, ask you to take their lives?
They didn't explicitly say that, but they made it clear that they were going downhill.
In legal terms, there's no such thing as a mercy killing. He's facing murder charges for their deaths. But how do his actions compare to medically assisted suicide, which could soon be legal in New York State? On October 27th, the state Senate voted on the Medical Aid in Dying Act, which would allow anyone diagnosed with an illness that would kill them within 6 months to have the legal right to end their own lives. It narrowly passed.
That's 35, and there's 27. The bill's passed.
35 to 27 in the state legislature is a vote along party lines. In this case, even within the Democratic Party, the legislation had hesitations.
I remain troubled on those three fronts, but in the end, I cannot, in good conscience, vote for those who may face terminal illnesses, to have them suffer in death, and with that, I will vote in the affirmative.
6 Democrats in the Senate did vote no. Republicans in the Senate aligning with that.
The only state in the country that has no waiting period involved in obtaining, if you want to call it, the medication. What's the justification for that? You don't need to see your physician in person before you acquire this.
As Governor Hochul ponders the bill, those are the concerns shared by the Catholic Conference of New York, too.
I can give you 35 reasons to oppose this bill. None of them mention God or church or faith. They're all about responsible legislation and what public policy does and what message it sends to the rest of the community.
Democrat Brad Hoylman-Siegel is the Senate sponsor of the bill.
What's your response to that talking point, would you say, so that in opposition?
Well, I have great respect for people who don't want to pursue medical aid in dying because of their personal, religious, or moral convictions. But I'd also suggest that they shouldn't impose those personal, religious, or moral convictions on the rest of New York. Anyone who has the option for medical aid in dying has to be examined by 2 physicians and possibly a mental health professional if that's recommended, and they have to have a terminal illness. And so we think there are the safeguards in place, just like there are in California.
As Hoylman-Siegel mentioned, California Governor Gavin Newsom recently made his state's medical aid in dying legislation permanent. And with the clock ticking on the deadline of it being signed by the end of the year, Governor Hochul recently asked her thoughts on this bill. Hochul's mother died from Lou Gehrig's disease, which would be eligible for this bill.
You know, I'll tell you, as governor, we're all products of our own circumstances and life's influences, but I have to be very careful not to allow that to color my decision-making when I'm making a decision, not for myself or my family, but for 20 million New Yorkers. So I do have the ability, and have many times embarked on this, to separate my personal beliefs, my religious beliefs, but I always have a very solid moral code that never leaves me when I make decisions for New Yorkers. So all that, I hear from a lot of people on that issue. It is strong. There are strong views on both sides of the spectrum, intense views on this, and I'm conscious of that, and it's going to be a very weighty decision on me between now and the end of the year, something that I take, as I said, enormously seriously, and will come to the right decision.
Those comments taken seriously by Assembly Bill sponsor Amy Paulin, who says they haven't heard much from the governor's office on the legislation. Usually there will be some communication between the governor's office and sponsors before a bill is decided on.
It's a little worrisome because I don't think there's much opposition to this bill. The opposition is coming from one place. It's the Catholic Church and Catholic Conference. They tell me they're reviewing it, but we haven't heard anything more than that. So we don't know, whether she's waiting to veto it at the end of the year, or she's really thinking about making changes, or she's happy with the version we have. We have no clue.
But while the bill may soon be law in New York, it won't apply to the case prosecutors are building against Lorenz Kraus.
Governor Hochul has until the end of the year to either sign or veto the bill. We'll keep you updated on when she does. Reporting here from the Capitol, Tom Eschen, CBS6 News.
8 years after his parents were killed, Lorenz Kraus says he's the one who did it, confessing not to the authorities, but to our cameras. It's the type of crime that defies reason, with a confession that raises even more questions. Why would a man kill his parents, then wait nearly a decade to say it out loud? We spoke exclusively to a forensic psychologist who breaks down what may have led Lorenz Kraus to kill and why he wanted the public to hear why he did it.
So first and foremost, I've never examined this individual, so I can't make a diagnosis, but I can give my impressions of what I saw. And what I saw was what seems to be a lot of grandiosity, a sense of major self-worth. Whoever examines him will, I would say, rule out psychosis first, rule out delusional disorder. And like I said, in delusional disorder, the person can act pretty normal in other situations. So somebody would have to examine him and rule out if there's any psychosis.
And so why would someone go to a television station instead of going to the police to confess and being so adamant about letting the people, the American people, hear him?
Again, because he thought he did something noble, worthy. He wanted his statement on YouTube. So a lot of attention seeking to feed his ego, to feed his sense of great worth.
The way that he killed his parents, using his hands on his father, murdering his mother with a rope, and then burying them in the backyard. What can we make sense about that entire situation?
His parents didn't explicitly ask him to end their lives. It was implicitly conveyed, is what he said. And then later on, he said, they gave me hints. Made the decision to allegedly kill his father first, then his mother. He kept the bodies in the house for a couple of days. He kept these murders, alleged murders of his parents, a secret until a neighbor alerted the law enforcement, or it would still be a secret. And once he knew it was being investigated, that's when he contacted your station.
There has been some confirmation of a possible wife, although Lorenz has hinted at them being separated. What can you make of that?
Well, that would be interesting. A collateral source of information is what many people use in investigations, but definitely forensic psychologists. So I would, if I ever did an examination on Mr. Kraus, I would ask him to sign a release, and I would try to talk to the wife. And she has firsthand knowledge and observations of him, if a wife exists.
Right, so that person would be very crucial, potentially, for a forensic evaluation.
Yes, absolutely. A very good source of information.
Understanding why Lorenz Kraus confessed is one thing, but what happens next comes down to the law. Could his televised confession ever be used in court? And more importantly, could it be used to help his defense?
We've uncovered how the case began, how investigators unearthed the truth buried deep in the dirt behind a quiet Albany home, and how a confession spoken straight to our cameras changed everything. But the story is far from over. Now we look ahead to what happens next inside the courtroom. After a grand jury returned a 7-count indictment, which includes first and second-degree murder charges, both the prosecution and the defense face the long, methodical work of discovery, filings, and legal maneuvering.
It is a really big case. The investigation had been going on for months before we went to his house that day. And the investigation's ongoing, autopsies and medical reports and things like that. The financial records are enormous.
But now the prosecution is ready to take the case against Lorenz Kraus to trial. And they say they've already turned over the bulk of their evidence, known as discovery, to the defense. That includes the recording that changed the course of this case, the on-camera confession he gave exclusively to CBS6.
You suffocated them. You suffocated your parents.
Yeah.
That was the best way to take their lives, through suffocation.
Basically.
The defense is now reviewing all the evidence, and they must decide what parts of the state's case they want blocked.
Your Honor, certainly we can address any issues we have in our omnibus motion, which I know is due in about a month, but certainly the vast majority of the discovery we received was at the very earliest Friday afternoon. So we're still going through things, trying to see if there's everything there that we expected, if there's anything missing.
By November 20th, the defense must file their motions, formal requests asking a judge to rule on evidence. And legal experts expect their top goal will be to suppress the confession, to keep the jury from ever seeing it.
If the defendant doesn't make this admission, it's exclusively solely a circumstantial evidence case, and the defense has a much stronger argument.
But beyond this confession, there is still critical forensic evidence that hasn't been made public, including the medical examiner's report, which would reveal the official cause and manner of death for the bodies found in the backyard. So while prosecutors say they're prepared to go to trial now, the defense is still building their case, and the judge has not set a trial date. And there's no word on whether discussions are happening on a plea deal. This case is still in its early stages, but what the defense files in November and what the judge rules afterwards could redefine a case that's already been full of twists and turns.
The human drama that played out here in this lobby will never be forgotten by those who were here. For Lorenz Kraus, the 30 or so minutes he spent in this chair, most likely the last free moments of his life. We are still waiting to see if the interview shot right here will be used in future court proceedings. If there's one thing we know, it's there's so much that we actually don't know. So many details about what happened inside that Kraus family home 8 years ago to those two children of World War II, Franz and Terry Kraus. Our promise to their memory and to you is that we'll keep on following this story every single step of the way. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.